So last time we talked about installing CyberPanel on Ubuntu OS. Today we'll be tackling an issue around, why upgrade to VPS? Why and when? You probably have when people start out in hosting websites, they tentatively take shared hosting. Shared hosting, in its sense, is that there is one particular, say, hosting space, and it's divided in partitions. There is one that covers this person's website. The other, in those partitions are different websites. So then shared hosting, the name shared hosting. So yes, when people start out with hosting websites, they tentatively tend to take shared hosting, which is totally understandable because one, it gives you, it's pocket friendly. Shared hosting tend to be subsidized, pocket friendly. Number two, it is easy to use. With shared hosting, the advantage you get is that it comes with this inbuilt cPanel. So like you see right now here, you wouldn't have to install a panel like how we do it on VPS. You'll have to install a panel. Yeah, and it is good to try out waters with shared hosting so that you can get to understand what aspects, the specs probably that your website needs. However, there are limitations that come with shared hosting. One being that you will share resources. These resources include sharing an IP, all resources within the server you'll be sharing. Majorly, sharing an IP, majorly, and stop at that. But every other resource, like it's shared hosting. So and some of that with shared hosting, as you share an IP, there's also limitation on the resources allocated. For example, I'm using the TrueHost silver hosting plan here. And as you can see, the silver hosting only allows me to add 2 domains to that hosting. Then far beyond that, the file usage is 250. Then the disk space is 30 GB, Then you have what we call, this is the disk usage, MySQL disk at 30, everything at 30. The bandwidth is unlimited. Now, you see, majorly when people are thinking about hosting, which I find amusing, is that they think whenever the bandwidth is unlimited or infinite, then your site should just be working voila because the bandwidth is unlimited. But you can see other specs are limiting with shared hosting. They are limiting. It doesn't mean that with a VPS the space is not limiting, but let's take a keen look even with file usage. With VPS, you get 1 million in terms of file usage. Tell me, however much your website might be enormous or huge, I think the aspect about file usage is one thing you'd want to consider when getting a VPS. I will talk keenly into that later. So yes, you see, infinite subdomains, infinite number of email accounts, and everything. These are specs: CPU usage, entry processes, physical memory usage, you see, input output, and I/O usage. And then we have IOPS, and then input output, the number of processes. So these are specs. And as I said, these resources are somewhat limited. Not the ones that are infinite are surely infinite, but the ones that are limited are surely limited. Let me talk today. I'll be covering. My eyes will be keenly settling on what you call file usage. So what is file usage? Otherwise known as inodes. Inodes are the number of files that you have. This could mean emails, directories, folders, the number of files that you have. A good example is when you have, say, a WordPress website, there is WordPress. Let me take an example of WordPress content. You see, inside WordPress content, YP content, there are several number of other folders. We have the plugins, we have the themes, name them. So each, as you go in these files and folders, folders per se first, they represent a number of files. They represent, and each one of them is counted under inodes. So, per se, you'd always want to check on your inodes usage on shared hosting. And this is where our limiting factor comes in terms of shared hosting. So the inode usage necessarily influences, would be one of the key reasons why you should move to a VPS. So if that be the case, that every file is, like an assumption on this file usage is that, and it's just not about the website file, sorry, every file. So let me give you a good example. You have a website running, and then you have emails running. The email folder with the number of email accounts you have also have a folder. So this small file usage or negligible, you'd assume, for example, let us check on my file manager. You see, all these folders represent something, like the number. It is not how huge it is, though the hugeness influences, but it is in the number of files. And then you see, at times when people are thinking about how to solve this problem of file usage, then you have the public HTML. You see, for example, I have the WordPress WordPress files. You see, every file is counted, every folder, every file. There is this back, every file, every folder is counted. So yes, and at times you see when the file usage is screaming, most of us tend to think of what to delete, and we end up deleting important files that don't need to be deleted. When you think about deleting files, you want to reach out to your host company and request them to let you know which files not to delete when you are deleting files, so as to cut down on the number of files. Others consider upgrading to the next version of the shared hosting, of which still limiting. Whenever file usage gets at around 80%, you need to start thinking about the way out. And first, I have already suggested to you what people think. They will think about checking, deleting some files, which in essence might not be the solution, because you realize that at times they are crucial files that you should, even though they are eating up space, they are crucial files. They make the part of your website, so there is no way you can delete them. Then other people consider upgrading to a higher version of shared hosting. This might seem as the better option then, but absolutely not the best option. Allow me to share with you the best option. The best option would be to consider getting a VPS. Why get a VPS? Why? The virtual private server offers you higher advantages depending with the quote-unquote heaviness of your website, such that, for example, what I'm calling inode usage, with the VPS, the inode usage is at 1 million. So however much your site might be quote unquote heavy. It is not easy, though it is possible. It is not easy to fully, exhaust these resources. And whenever you exhaust, there's still an option of upgrading to another higher VPS. Why the VPS? Virtual Private Net Server. Here you do not share any whatsoever resources. The only limiting factor here could be just the space. Yes, the space. Because different companies have different VPS packages. For example, the shared what TrueHost Cloud has is the shared, not shared, but rather co-managed VPS, the managed VPS, where the list or the starting package is as 30 GB, 30 GB space. So you'd say, why leave TrueHost server hosting to go to a VPS of 30 GB? Hey, here is the gist. You do not just get a higher package when it comes to inodes, which is the limiting factor on why consider VPS, but you also get dedicated IP. Dedicated IP would really help with your mailing, email deliverability, because IP reputation speaks a lot in terms of email deliverability, especially if you're sending out good emails. I must say, if you're sending out good emails, because ideally your mailing behavior also affects your IP reputation. So this disadvantage disadvantage that you get, the email behavior of every other person on the shared hosting server will affect your emails. So with getting a VPS, you have an IP with higher chances of better IP reputation, as long as your emailing behavior is okay. You do not spam, name them. As long as your emailing behavior is okay, as long as it's okay, then you have your email deliverability is top. But I must say that you need to have ensured you have a DKIM, SPF, and DMARC in place to be able to send out emails and then being delivered to best. So we have spoken about file usage, IP, which affects your email, and then let's speak about downtime. You see, another thing, a reality about shared hosting is that whenever that server per se is full, you see, you're on shared hosting and there are partitions, and these partitions say other clients are filling in the space and this server is overloaded. There are higher chances of downtime. These errors could merge from error 500 to 503, problems around servers. But then, the advantage of a virtual private server is that you have your own space, and the number of times you reduce downtimes with a VPS. So yes, these are just simple reasons as to why you should move to a VPS. And then final yet not least is what we call processes, number of processes. With the shared hosting, the number of processes are limiting, but with a virtual private server, oh my goodness, you should just do it. I shouldn't go in, but it isn't as limiting in terms of the shared hosting. So yes, these are limitations. Then you could always be able to check out your resource usage. These are statistics right here, right? These are just statistics. But to be able to check out your resource usage, you will always search on resource usage on your cPanel, and you'll be able to see your resource usage in terms of the last 24 hours. And at times, the statistics on the where we've been might not indicate that you need to shift, but the resource usage will be able to tell you that there is either the number of processes has been depleted, or the file usage for the last or say 24 hours has been depleted. You see, yeah. That's it. Let me know if you have any questions with regards to why shift to the VPS. We can be able to check it out together. Yeah, for my site, you see, for the last 24 hours, no resource downtime. Yeah.